Hi, on one of my videos I've covered off a little bit about soil and the nutrients we need in the soil in your veg patch. I mentioned a little bit about using banana, peel, eggshells and tea bags. What I'm going to do on this video is I'm just going to show you what I do with tea bags to prepare them for use in the garden. Obviously I dry them out, but I'm going to go inside and show you what I do with my tea bags to make sure they're ready. Hi, so why would you use tea leaves in your garden? Basically, they are a really good source of nitrogen for your soil. So, can you actually use tea bags in your veg patch? Well, there's a sort of a yes and a no answer to that. Is yes, you can use your tea leaves. They're ultimately what is giving you your nitrogen. But what you've just got to be careful of is with the tea bags, because not all of the tea bags are biodegradable. Which means if you throw them in your compost heap, that the tea leaves will get in there and start to put nutrients into your soil, but you could ultimately still have a tea bag that's not completely disappeared, and if they've got plastics in them you could ultimately end up with a sort of nearly tea bag casing, which you may end up having to go through your compost heap to pull those out. So it's worth keeping an eye on whether or not the tea bags you use are biodegradable. I've got to admit, in our house we use two different tea bags. My wife uses the PG Tips pyramid tea bags, and they're definitely promoting themselves as being biodegradable. I use a flavoured tea bag. At the moment I do need to do a latest check on whether these are biodegradable yet. I know the company that makes them are certainly committed to doing it, and they bring it through the range, so I just need to really check whether the tea bags that I use have reached the stage of being the biodegradable ones. What I actually do is I don't actually use the bags anyway. I empty the bags of the tea leaves and I put it straight into the soil, the tea leaves for me. So obviously you could put it onto your compost heap or straight into your soil. And the way I do that with mine is I pop these out to dry. So over the summer I will always have a whole load of tea bags out drying. It's important to keep turning them so that all sides are getting the sun, because what you want is the tea leaves to be really dry, sort of as dry as they are in the tea bag when you actually first buy them. So what I then do is, obviously what you'll end up with is you'll still have the shape of the tea bag, but generally speaking they look sort of quite brown and burnt, a bit like they are there, but you'll just push them around. You still want to be able to then ultimately be able to have the tea leaves going around inside the bag like that. And all I then do is I just split the bags open. Now pop those over there, just show the difference really here. So this is, if you're dealing with wet tea bags, they're still stuck together and things, and gets quite messy. Look, it's all sticking to my fingers already. And that's why I don't empty the tea bags while they're wet. I let the tea bags really dry and then I deal with the tea leaves. It just suddenly makes it a lot easier for me. So what you end up with when you empty them out is just dry tea leaves ultimately, and it's amazing really how many of these you can get. I store mine in my old milk bottles, plastic milk containers. These hold just over 2 litres, and I think in total just during the summer last year, in the end I collected well over 15 litres worth of tea leaves for putting on the garden. So that's why you also want to really make sure it's dry, because if you're going to store it for a number of months like this, you don't want any mould in there, so you really need the tea leaves to be dry for when you put them. But as you see, that is ultimately, it's so much easier to deal with that and just use a funnel or something to get them into your milk than actually messing around the wet ones. It's just much easier, I find, to dry the tea bag out thoroughly and then split them open and empty the tea leaves out of them. One other thing along similar sort of lines, you could also use, I don't use a lot of coffee in the espresso maker or everything, but you can also use your coffee grounds. Similar sort of thing is when you empty the coffee grounds out of your espresso maker after you've had your cappuccino or your latte or something, then just make sure you really dry it out before storing it. Again, if you don't dry it out, the chances are you're starting to get mould in it and things like that. And if you're really going to store it maybe from the summer all the way through to the autumn or winter when you use it, you need to make sure it's really bone dry. One other thing, again, some people do actually say that they can make sort of tea mixture, and ultimately they'll soak a lot of the tea bags in water for quite a while, so as much comes out of them, and then they'll just water the garden. I've never really tried that. I'm happy with the sort of way I do it, but feel free to try that if you want. I've not tried it myself. So then what do I do with the tea leaves? I do exactly the same as I do with my sort of eggshells and banana peels and things. In late October, early November, in my raised bed, I've tipped all the soil in from my troughs and my tubs, and it's full to the brim, and then I rake back about the top 1.5 or 2 inches, and I'll put a decent layer of the tea leaves, some of the coffee grounds, banana peel, eggshells, sometimes throw in some Epsom salt, and also so I've still got a tub of dried chicken manure, so I occasionally sprinkle some of that in as well, and then I just rake it back over, and I leave it all over the winter so the rain's coming onto the soil and everything, and hopefully releasing those nutrients into the soil. And what I'm then hoping is by the time I actually come to plant things out, take the soil out of the raised beds either into my troughs and tubs, but by the time I'm actually planting things out, we're probably getting on to late April, May, and even early June. So I'm hoping really the nutrients have started to get through to the soil by then. So that's all I do with my tea bags to get the tea leaves separate and then put them direct in the soil. Just remember the bit then about making sure that your tea bags are biodegradable. And also check out some of my other videos. I've got a video on how I prepare my banana peels for using as fertiliser, and how I prepare my eggshells for fertiliser as well.